90% of what pharmacists do. That's one piece of it, make no mistake. But certainly we're into patient care now. And the reason why patient care is so important to us is because we believe pharmacists have a vast responsibility to take care of the public. We say that in an oath that you will take when you graduate, and we also live it every day within the curriculum that you're going to be experiencing here at Temple, as well as with the experiential rotations that you will also get. So we start something very simple, and we start with what the team looks like. These are the four tremendous people that will be guiding you through your admissions journey. You've already met Joan. Joan is the director of admissions. Liara Powell is also on the call. She is the associate director for recruitment. Both incredibly vast resource people for whatever questions you have related to prerequisites, the future of pharmacy, you name it, they can answer the question. If they can't answer the question, or it's such a deeper question that maybe is not easily answered in an email or something like that, they will certainly get in touch with you to go in more detail with it, elicit more information, answer more questions. And then overseeing the whole admissions process is Dr. Christina Rose. She is at another function today for admissions, so that's why she couldn't be here. But she's also someone that serves as a vast resource. The good thing about all of these folks, including Adrian Henry, who serves as our secretary in admissions, these are folks that have been with Temple for a while. These are folks that have been with Temple for, in some cases, up to 30 years, which shows a vast amount of experience, a vast amount of love for the university, and a vast amount of love for the School of Pharmacy. And I think when you talk to people at the School of Pharmacy, that comes through. I think when you talk to our students today, they will probably mention something along those lines because what we try to do is incorporate Temple as a family. You're with us for 4 years. And because you're with us for 4 years, there's a responsibility on our end to make sure that not only we give you the best education we possibly can, but also to make you better people before you leave, to make you more empathetic, to make you more patient driven, to make you more aware of the community around you. And that's part of the things that we take very seriously at the School of Pharmacy. So anytime you have a question along the process related to admissions, no question is too simple, no question is too difficult. Please make sure you reach out to these folks and they'll be able to help you in many ways to make sure that your admissions process is as smooth as possible. Now, in terms of the history of the school, we're coming up on a major anniversary. We're coming up on our 125th anniversary next year. The School of Pharmacy was established way back in 1901 as one of the first schools within Temple University, which is a little bit older. Temple University is about 17 or 18 years older than the School of Pharmacy is. And we're located at the Health Sciences campus, which is about a mile or so north from the main campus. And the reason why it's important that we're up there is because we're in the middle of all the medical schools, the dental school that is in that area. It also is very, very resourceful because across the street, literally from the School of Pharmacy, is Temple University Hospital on one side of the street. And then you cross Broad Street and you're in a large amount of our ambulatory care clinics. So we kind of live and breathe in this campus the healthcare that we're about to teach you. You can go back and forth to other campuses. That is not a problem, even though it is a mile. It's not a large distance, but also we have shuttle buses that run in between. So if you have a reason to go to the main campus for whatever reason, maybe you want to utilize the library there rather than at the Health Sciences campus, you certainly can do that. We share the campus with, as I already said, the School of Medicine, the School of Dentistry, as well as Temple University Hospital, which is about a 700 bed um, large institution. Trauma is there, many critical care units is there. So you would be hard pressed to find a hospital that offers as much learning experience as Temple University Hospital does. A lot of us have done time at Temple University Hospital. I fortunately did a residency there many years ago, and I can tell you, even back then, when we did a residency, it was one of the leading hospitals, not only in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania, but maybe in the country. They see a different amount of patients in terms of some of the disease states that they bring to the hospital. So that lends itself to a very robust learning experience. And I think you would appreciate that on rotations and things like that. Although we are the School of Pharmacy, as I mentioned at the very beginning, you have access to all of Temple's resources, all of Temple's facilities, ranging from the library to gymnasiums and fitness facilities and things like that. So you can imagine a university as large as Temple has a ton of resources that we can offer you. And just because you're at the School of Pharmacy, maybe a little bit away from the main campus, that certainly doesn't mean that you shouldn't take advantage of that. And I would encourage you to do so. So let's talk about the university a little bit now. The university, as I said, is about 17 years older than the School of Pharmacy. Um, it has 17 schools within it, including the School of Pharmacy. And one of the main advantages of Temple University is that it is a Research One facility, which means that in the jargon of education, it allows you the access to research that you may not find in other places. Not only on the university level, but also at the School of Pharmacy level, we have a lot of our students that are interested in research, and they will pair with our faculty to be a part of that research. There have been students have been presented that present at national conferences. There are students that have had their names on award-winning posters, award-winning articles that have been published in major journals, ranging from the clinical type of expertise that we have to the pharmaceutical expertise that we have with our basic science folks, the ones that are in pharmacology, the ones that are in pharmaceutics, the ones that are in medicinal chemistry, which are three big disciplines within pharmacy. We're going to talk a little more about that in a few minutes, but just be aware if research is one of your interests, we certainly have the capability and the wherewithal to be able to do that. So let's take a step back now. You've decided to become a pharmacist. You're applying to a pharmacy school, hopefully, and hopefully you'll be coming to Temple because we think we have a lot to offer. But no matter where you go, it's important to realize that the role of the pharmacist is exceedingly important today in 2025. We have been looked upon for years as the medication experts. But one of the things that we do very well is work collaboratively with other healthcare professionals. We have a lot of expertise in specialized therapy. We know if we were having this conversation 20 years ago, one, some of you would be very young. And secondly, we wouldn't be talking about any of the new agents, the new drugs that we're talking about today in 2025. Everybody, I'm sure, has heard of GLP-1s. These are the meds like Ozempic and drugs like that that have really become all the rage. There's an expert that needs to kind of harness that and to make sure that patients are aware not only of the benefits, but also of the challenges of taking some of these medications. So pharmacists are very well positioned, not only to be the medication expert at large, but also be the expert when it comes to these specialty drugs, these biologic agents that are incredibly expensive, but also more importantly, that patients need very good counseling for, very good education for. They need to know the risks, they need to know the benefits. And that's something I think that pharmacists are extremely well positioned to do, probably more than any other healthcare professional. But it's not only these big, expensive, high-tech agents that pharmacists are expert in. We also play a large role in taking care of patients from a chronic care standpoint. I'm sure you all know people that have diabetes, asthma, hypertension. These are the big three, if you will, of diseases that patients suffer from a lot. What pharmacists can do is offer real life, pragmatic types of expertise in these areas. There are a lot of patients, you can probably imagine, that when they are told they've been diagnosed with any one of these things, it's a little bit scary. So it's real important for someone to kind of take the lead, literally take them by the hand and say, everything's going to be okay. We're going to get you through this because we have the expertise to do it. We have the drugs that are going to help you do it, but we're also there always to make sure that we're a partner with you in your chronic disease management. A lot of these diseases, unfortunately, don't go away. People will have diabetes and asthma and hypertension for many, many years. It's important for someone to be kind of the gatekeeper for those patients in their challenges with these diseases, and certainly pharmacists are well equipped to do that. There's patient and provider education and team-based healthcare. There's a concept out there known as the medical home, the patient-centered medical home, which means that not only you have a lot of folks helping patients, but you also have providers helping providers. You'll probably learn very early in your time at Temple, medicine's a team game. It's not only the pharmacist doing what they do and the nurse doing what they do and the physician doing what they do. It is collaboration. And we take a lot of pride in that. We have several in the time when you're here, what we call IPE experiences. IPE stands for interprofessional education, which means you're in a room with nursing students and dental students and medical students, and you're working on cases together, bringing the expertise that all of you have from your individual disciplines. Patients do better when providers collaborate. There is no question about that. The data in the literature is robust in that area. People do better when collaboration happens. We start that very early. You will start that in your first semester when you're with us. So you don't have to wait until your third or fourth year when you're getting ready to leave to start experiencing those types of interprofessional activities. You will experience it very, very early as 6 or 7 weeks in to your first semester with us. So we think that that's an exciting prospect that we can offer you. We also spent a lot of time talking about vaccinations. Certainly, we all remember the pandemic of about 5 years ago with COVID that really upended the world, not just individual people, but really changed globally how we act, how we go to school, how we work, all those things. It's important for pharmacists to be on the front lines of those things with vaccines, testing, treating, all those types of things in terms of prevention. It's one thing to treat patients once they're sick. It's much easier to prevent things from happening in the first place. And vaccinations are something that is very, very dear to our hearts. We just had a group of our second year students go through CPR training and immunization training. So they're able to go out, get licensed in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and start under the auspices of a pharmacist to be able to provide vaccinations to people. I can tell you we played a major role at the School of Pharmacy during the COVID pandemic. There were many faculty that went out and did vaccinations 2, 3 times a week at large types of events. Dr. Rose, who I introduced earlier, she was responsible for helping with a mobile hospital, if you will, at the Liacouras Center. She was one of the pharmacy really foundational people that enabled patients that came from the outside that were overflowing from hospitals and whatnot to be able to get provided really, really good care in collaboration with others. We take students with us on those journeys. We're not doing these alone. So when we go to a vaccination clinic, for example, we're taking a half a dozen students with us because we want to make sure that we get as many people vaccinated as we can, and we want to make sure the students get the experience to do that. We also, as I mentioned earlier, do a lot of research at the School of Pharmacy. We have several different centers of excellence. The Mulder Center for Drug Discovery is one of them. We have pharmacogenomics centers within the School of Pharmacy, and there are faculty that are responsible for those. So if that happens to turn into an interest of yours during your time with us, we welcome that. We welcome you to help us in our journey so you can learn along the way as well. Finally, one of the things we try to do is always have our students think outside the box, if you will. That's an overused phrase. I get it. But one of the things that I think is really important to us, we offer the opportunity for pharmacy students to be entrepreneurs, for example. We have a community pharmacy track within the School of Pharmacy. So if you're thinking one day, if your dream has always been to open up your own community pharmacy, we can enable you to do that. We encourage students also to think big because we've had students that have developed apps for your phone with things like otitis media, which is a ear disease in children. We have a lot of different opportunities for that. And more importantly, we have the resources of a vast university that we can send an email to somebody at the School of Business and say, hey, one of our students has an idea here. What do you think about it? So we can also offer that to you. That's the benefit of being at a fairly large Research One university. Now, what about the profession? You're coming to school. You want to make sure that when you're done, you have a very important profession, but also realistically, one that is able to help you pay your bills, pay your mortgage, things like that. I think you can see with the numbers here, pharmacy fits all of those bills. The median salary for a pharmacist is about $136,000 a year. That equates to about $65 an hour. One of the things that we're also seeing is that pharmacy is supposed to grow in the next 10 years. Maybe about 5%, could be more, could be less. We know people stayed on a lot longer because of the pandemic in some cases, but we also know that there's always a ton of openings, about 14,000 every year on average over the next decade. So I don't think there's going to be any problem with finding employment. One of the things also, as we'll talk about in a couple of minutes, is all the vast places that you could go within pharmacy. When I was coming up more than a few years ago, it was really only a few options. It was community pharmacy, it was hospital pharmacy, and it was the pharmaceutical industry. That was pretty much it. Now we know there is upwards of 50 to 60 places where pharmacists can practice. That could be within those three areas. There's nothing wrong with that. We need good pharmacists everywhere. However, now with the advent of things like biologics, with the advent of things like informatics, with the look towards doing other things in industry other than working in the pharmaceutical labs, things like marketing, things like regulatory affairs, which means you deal with regulations on a governmental level. Quality assurance. Any hospital you go to today is looking for people that look at the quality of the institution as to what the pharmacy is doing and what the hospital is doing. There's also a movement towards medication safety, which is exceedingly important. A lot of hospitals are using medication safety officers in an attempt to make sure that they're looking at the hospital as a whole to make sure mistakes and errors don't happen and patients are kept safe. I can't think of anybody better equipped to fill that role than a pharmacist. And that's what's happened across a large part of the country. So I think you kind of get the flavor that there is a lot of opportunities for pharmacy, no matter where you are. Yes, you can still stick with the big three. That's where a lot of our students go. But also, there's a lot of our students that have done some really cool things once they've graduated because they've gotten experiences on their rotations that have led them to in a certain direction. And they've also had a lot of networking through our many alumni that are always willing and happy to help students find their way. So it's not just we're giving you an education, we're also preparing you for life after pharmacy school because we feel that that's a huge responsibility of ours. Now, there are some practice settings here that I already alluded to. We talked about the clinical aspects on the left-hand side. Might be some on that list that you haven't really thought of. Not many people think of veterinary pharmacy as being a place to practice. It's becoming larger. We actually have an organization at the School of Pharmacy which caters to veterinary pharmacy, and there's students that are interested in it. We've had graduates that have talked to us and come back and spoke to students about their experiences in a place like veterinary pharmacy. So we encourage you to at least explore it. You may find that I want nothing to do with that. That's perfectly reasonable, but at least expose yourself to it because you might find that there's a little bit of a pearl there that you thought, wow, this is really neat. And you're going to be able to practice in those settings. Primary care clinics, we mentioned earlier about the chronic care component of things, as well as primary care, where we see patients with generally what we consider more of the everyday kind of ailments like diabetes, asthma, hypertension, things like that. Community, we mentioned. Hospital, we mentioned. That's when I mentioned institutional pharmacy. That's generally considered hospital. But there's also emerging areas like pharmacogenomics, where there is a genetic component to how drugs work, which until about 20, 30 years ago, we really were not aware of. We knew it existed many years ago. Pharmacogenetics has been around since the 1950s, but now this expanded role of pharmacogenomics has really blossomed with the advent of the mapping of the human genome, as well as things that have arose through that. But then there's all the non-clinical things too. So we're going to give you opportunities not only to learn the clinical things, taking care of patients, which is really our primary role, but also other things as well. You might find that you love research and drug development. You might find that you love computers and you love systems. Well, that's where health econ and informatics come in. So we'll give you exposure to that. We have students that go to the Food and Drug Administration, that they spend 6 weeks there, 5 or 6 weeks there, to see what they do as part of their rotation experiences. There's managed care organizations that really are responsible for the administration of benefits for a lot of different people, millions of people, if you will, within a certain system or within a certain organization. And we've already mentioned the pharmaceutical industry. So I think the takeaway message here is that there are plenty of opportunities, not only in the traditional roles of a pharmacist, but also roles that maybe you hadn't even thought of before you got to look at this list. Now, what about here? Temple. What do we do here? Well, a couple things. One is that we do not require a BS degree to come here. We will be talking about that in a minute. But generally, most folks will do 2 to 4 years of pre-pharmacy type work. These are all your prerequisites, right? All your chemistries, all your biologies, things like that. What we would encourage you to do is at that point apply through a portal known as PharmCAS. That's the Pharmacy Central Application Service, which is kind of the clearinghouse for students that want to apply to pharmacy schools. We encourage you to apply the year when all your prerequisites will be finished. For no other reason is that it's going to save you time earlier. What we want you to do is be able to have your prerequisites done the year before the year you're coming to see us. You don't have to have them all done, however. You can apply while you're still in the midst of completing them. So if our cycle opens sometime in the summer for admissions, what you want to do, if you're going to be able to complete your prerequisites in the fall or spring of the upcoming year, by all means, apply early. Mainly because one, you'll be able to kind of get that out of your head that you have to go through the application process because it is a little bit, anxiety producing, right? You got to get all kinds of things together, but that's where those four wonderful people that we mentioned earlier are going to be able to direct you because we know that applying to pharmacy schools can be stressful on top of all the other work you have to do. So apply the year when your prerequisites will be completed. And then finally, when you're in the Doctor of Pharmacy program, we have a 4-year curriculum, which the first 3 years are spent doing classroom work, but we also incorporate patient care experiences each of those 3 years. So you will feel like a pharmacist very early in the time with us. It's not like we wait till your 3rd year and then say, okay, now we're going to give you patient care. No, no, no. We want you to have it earlier so you get an exposure to that. And then finally, your 4th year is all your what we call advanced pharmacy practice experiences, or API. You'll hear that term being used. And that's about 40 weeks of rotations where you're spending 5-week blocks at different places. So you might spend 5 weeks in a hospital, 5 weeks in industry, 5 weeks in a community pharmacy, 5 weeks in an intensive care unit. There's tons of choices, and we'll talk about some of those in a couple minutes as well. Bottom line, right out of high school, if you think of the year that you've graduated high school, you can complete your PharmD in 6 years. You can go get a bachelor's degree. You don't need one with us. You also can complete your prerequisites in 3 years rather than 2. So it really depends on you. It depends on what works best for you. We know everybody has life issues. We know everybody has things that might be considered a little bit of a challenge. That's why we're here to help you. That's why we have a team of 4 people that can help you with pretty much any question you have related to the entry into our PharmD program. This is again a point that I wanted to make clear. You do not need a bachelor's degree. You do not need to finish a 4-year program in order to apply with us. The only thing that you really need is to be able to complete all the prerequisites. Once the prereqs are done, you are good to go in our eyes. If you get a bachelor's degree or have a bachelor's degree, welcome. We welcome you too. But it's just needs to be made really clear that compared to other schools of pharmacy, that may require you to get a bachelor's degree before you come to us. That is not our philosophy. Our philosophy is once you have the prerequisites done, we want to get you out into practice as quickly as we can, mainly because we know that a bachelor's degree and another 4 years after that is a financial challenge for a lot of people. That's part of Temple's mission, to be able to provide education to those folks that may not ordinarily be able to get it through conventional means, if you will. So we try to make things as easy as we can as part of our mission to serve the underserved, to make sure that while we're serving patients that are underserved, we want to make sure that we don't make the process too daunting for those students that want to come with us. We know that a lot of our students are first generation college students. We take pride in that, and we want to make sure that we make it as simple as we can for you to get into our program. So let's talk about the path to the PharmD program. We've already mentioned one of them. We've mentioned the 6-year PharmD, where you complete your prerequisites in 2 years. You get admitted into the PharmD program in your sophomore year of college at Temple or any other college for that matter when your prereqs are done. And then you complete your 4 years of the PharmD program. The PharmD program is 4 years. That's one thing that is absolutely foundational. That's something that will not change. However, we have other options too. You don't have to spend 6 years, as we said earlier. You can complete them in a little more than 2 years. Maybe it's 3 years. Still apply to us during the year your prereqs are completed. You will be admitted during that time, and then you complete your 4 years of the PharmD program. And then finally, if you are absolutely set on getting a bachelor's degree, kudos to you. Complete your bachelor's degree in a major that hopefully aligns with what the prerequisites would be. That would be things like biology, chemistry, things like that. Then you're admitted to the PharmD program, and then you complete the 4 years of the professional PharmD. So you have a lot of ways to get to us. You can do it as quickly as you can, or you can get a bachelor's degree and then come to see us after. We welcome you no matter which path you are taking to come to us. And we can help you decide what the best course of action is. Some folks aren't that keen on getting a bachelor's degree. They want to get in, do what they need to do, get their education, and go out into the workforce. That might be options 1 and 2 here. That's fine. But if you want to get a bachelor's degree, by all means, we welcome you to do that as well. Now, let's talk about the prerequisites. Here's a list of all the prerequisites that we're asking students to take. Not going to read the list to you, but I think you get a general idea that it's heavily science driven. That makes sense, right? Because science GPA tends to be one of the best markers that we have to make sure students will do well once they get into the PharmD program. Math is important for the simple reason that we do a lot of calculations in pharmacy, and having that math placement in the right setting is important. So if you're having problems with math, no worries. We'll probably need to have you take a couple of courses to prepare or do some sort of intensive kind of math education with you just to make sure that you're up to the rigor of what some of the math that we have to offer you. English and electives really to make you an incredibly well-rounded person. English is not generally thought about in pharmacy as being important, but it really is because you're going to be reading articles. You're going to have to write narratives about those articles that are in medical journals and things like that. We do take transferable courses from advanced placement, community colleges, other universities and colleges. Again, if you have a question as to whether a course meets the criteria, I encourage you to reach out to Joan or Layara or anyone within the admissions office who may be able to answer those questions for you. That's what they're there for. And they've had a ton of experience. There's not a question they have not heard before in terms of a prerequisite or in terms of any question that you may have. So please utilize them. Can't stress that enough. They are there for you. We exist because of students. So we want to make sure that we make the path as easy as we can. So if you have a question, reach out. We're happy to answer it for you and point you in the right direction. So those are the prereqs, what we need you to take before you get here. Now, you may be thinking, there's a lot of pharmacy schools out there. Why us? Well, I'll give you several reasons in the next few slides. One is, if you're a pre-pharmacy student, for example, at Temple, we are going to guarantee you admission to the PharmD program if you meet these three requirements. Your cumulative in science GPA has to be a 2.7 or above. That's about a B minus, okay, if you look at how numerical grades translate to letter grades. Secondly, if on your first attempt with prereqs, you have a C minus or above grade, that's something that we could accept for you. And finally, you have to apply, you have to interview. And again, we can't stress enough, make sure you apply the year when you're going to be completing your prerequisite courses. Probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense to apply 2 years ahead of time because a lot can happen in those 2 years. But the admission cycle opens sometime in the summer. What we'll ask you to do is apply in the same year where your prerequisites are going to be done. So if you know you're kind of in between your junior and senior year of college, if you're going for a bachelor's degree, or you've kind of mapped out that your prereqs will be done at a certain point in 2026, for example, well, then apply in this upcoming cycle because then you can come into the School of Pharmacy in fall 2026 and you'll be able to start your 4-year journey at that point. So that's one reason why Temple's a good idea. Second reason is that even from your freshman year at Temple, we will be integrating with the School of Pharmacy from people that are down at main campus. We can't tell you how important that is. We don't want you to feel like you're like out there and the pharmacy school is up there. No, 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 no. If you're a pre-pharmacy major, you are integrated with us from the very beginning. You will be invited to come to functions at the School of Pharmacy. You will be invited to join a pre-pharmacy club. You will be given access to alumni events. You will be given access to talking to our faculty if you have a question. From the time you walk in the door at Temple, not the School of Pharmacy, I'm talking the university. So we have a lot of opportunity for you, which isn't the case everywhere. It can be a relatively seamless journey from freshman year into the pharmacy school. The 4 people that you have met on the slide, the second slide, those 4 people from the admissions office, they are exceedingly knowledgeable within the PharmD program. The university also has other folks that might be able to help you with that. What are some of the paths that I can take? Well, we gave you 3 of them. There might be more. Based on your individual situation, we encourage you to reach out. And then when you're in the PharmD program, we don't just go to Temple for our clinical rotations. We go across Philadelphia. We go beyond Philadelphia. We go beyond Pennsylvania. We have rotation sites in Alaska. We have rotation sites in Arizona. We've sent students on medical mission trips to places like Guatemala and Vietnam and Kenya. And our students have also done overseas study in places like China Medical University and places along those lines. So you have an absolute breadth of activities and methods, paths that you could proceed and do from the time you come in the door at Temple. So that's a second reason why we think Temple's a good place for you to come. Thirdly, these are some of the things I already mentioned. Advising, we have drop-in hours. We have the pre-pharmacy club where you'll hear from a lot of us. You'll hear from alumni, faculty, current students. You'll hear from current students today as well. And then finally, we have someone on campus from the School of Pharmacy regularly to make sure that you're able to see somebody at a reasonable period of time. So if you have a question where you're actually stuck and you're saying, I got to talk to somebody, you can either email us, you can wait until one of these advising sessions occur, or you can just reach out and say, I need some help here. Okay. That is what we are there for. And I hope you never forget that. I hope if you remember nothing about this hour or so, that you remember that we are here for you from the very first day you interact with us, because we want to make sure that your journey is as seamless and as easy as possible, and that you feel like a pharmacy student from the minute you walk in the door at the university. These are some ways that we help you do that. There's other things that happen too. There's always campus tours going on. There's open houses. You're sitting in one now. We'll hold workshops for you in terms of some of the things that might be an issue with applications. We actually will give presentations to the pre-professional clubs, the pre-pharmacy clubs, again, to make you feel invested into you're a part of us. You don't become a part of us when you come to up, a mile from the main campus. You come to us when you're part of us from the minute you step foot on main campus. And we hope you believe that. And I hope we will encourage you. Once you talk to our students, I think it'll become easy to see. And then finally, we do have pharmacy student ambassadors. You're going to be talking to some of them today. And we connect undergrads that are at main campus with those ambassadors. So we think those are, I think I gave you maybe about more than three, certainly, a good number of reasons why Temple University is the place for your pharmacy studies, as well as your pre-pharmacy studies, because it's such a seamless kind of approach to get to the School of Pharmacy. Let's talk about some nuts and bolts now, things you probably need to know. Tuition for the university, as you see, undergraduate tuition, depending on when you're if you're a Pennsylvania or out-of-state resident, and you see the prices for the PharmD professional program as well. I will say this to you. This is the tuition price for the university. However, there's also a very important bullet at the very bottom, and that is scholarship information. Scholarships are available for undergraduate students. And also, once you're admitted to the professional program, the admissions office, the four people that we mentioned, will work with you to give you as much aid as we possibly can. We are not naive to think that pharmacy school is not an expensive proposition. We know it is. But we know that it is a solid value proposition. What are you getting for those 4 years of education? You are walking out with a job that's going to pay you over $100,000 easily. And if you were to kind of translate those numbers to a 40-year work career, which at your stage now in your life seems very daunting, I understand that. But when you do the math, coming into pharmacy school, that's like buying a $5 million lottery ticket. Because if you even conservatively say that you will make $125,000 a year over 40 years, you are talking a lot of money, okay, over your lifetime. So I would encourage you to please look at it in that way. The expense up front, no matter what school you choose, it's there. We can't do anything about that. We try to keep the cost as low as we possibly can. And we also offer a very large amount of scholarship information, scholarship monies. Okay. But think about what you're getting at the end of that. You're getting the opportunity to take care of a family, transform your life and your family to be able to make a living that you can be extremely proud of. And that's kind of what we're trying to do with a pharmacy education anyway. One, train you to be great clinicians, but also have you to become better people and to be able to take care of your families and be able to take care of humanity at large. I don't think it's hyperbole to say that. That's what we do. We make lives better. And as pharmacists, you'll be well equipped to do that when you're with us. Here's the curriculum. I won't spend a lot of time on it because I think we're going to have the students talk a little bit about their experiences anyway. But the first 3 years are spent in basic courses, right? On the left-hand side, you get the basic science courses, which are things like medicinal chemistry, principles of infectious disease, pharmacology. Those are really the building blocks of what we do. And then the pharmacy practice courses. These are things like drug information. Do you know how to provide drug information to a patient? Do you know what the landscape of healthcare is like today? The social and economic aspects of healthcare. Do you know how to take care of patients? Do you know how patients work in terms of physiology and anatomy and pathophysiology, which is the study of disease? Therapeutics, that's everyday drug therapy. So these are all courses that are really foundational. But the whole point of these 3 years is to prepare you for your electives, which is in the third year, which is based on your interest. The courses we just showed you are known as the core. That's what sets the foundation. However, you may decide that you want to go in a different direction. You can do that as well. You can do research. You can differentiate your degree with elective concentrations in some of the areas mentioned here, like community practice, like medication safety. And we also offer dual degrees for those who want them. We have dual degrees with an MBA, with a master's in public health, and a master's of science degree in pharmacovigilance. That's something that's tied into medication safety. It's tied into the pharmaceutical industry. So we have a lot of opportunities for you that you can select elective courses in your third year that's going to really give you direction for whatever path you choose to take. And then we talk about the experiential. This is the real life type thing. So remember what we said. In the first 3 years, from the day you walk into the School of Pharmacy, you're going to have opportunities to do these introductory experiences that we call IPPY. You'll be spending some time in a community pharmacy, some time in an institutional pharmacy, and some time in a clinical pharmacy environment. This is to kind of whet your appetite, to give you a little bit of exposure to all of the experiences that are available to you in the traditional types of pharmacy practice. When you get to the fourth year, however, everything changes because these are now 6 week experiences compared to maybe a 40-hour experience in the first 3 years. The first 3 years, it's generally a 40 to 80-hour experience over a semester. In the fourth year, they're 5 week experiences, which is what, 200 hours, where you will be spending 40 hours a week in a variety of rotation sites, which give you a tremendous amount of exposure. There's over 500 sites to choose from. We can send you to the industry. We can send you to the FDA. There have been students that have gone to law firms because they've been considering the idea of combining a PharmD degree with a law degree. There's been folks that have combining a PharmD degree with an MBA, like I mentioned earlier, but their concentration with their MBA is in pharmaceutical advertising. So there's a lot to choose from. And that's going to continue to grow based on the interest of our students. We have a very active experiential education office that manages all this, and they're always listening to students to say, hey, have you thought about a site here? And when they do that, by all means, we're happy to provide that site to you. We also have a very, very active NAPLEX preparation program, which prepares you for the board exam at the end of the fourth year, which is what allows you to practice pharmacy in pretty much any state that you wish. Now, there's also opportunities for Temple University undergrads to connect. We've already mentioned some of them. Let's go a little further. Here's some other opportunities for engagement. You're sitting in one now. You're sitting in a virtual open house. And then we have other opportunities as well. We have panels that you can sit in on that I'll let Joan talk about when we're finished. You have something known as Final Flight that you can participate in. If you want to sit in another virtual open house because you're thinking maybe I didn't get enough out of it, that's fine. We're happy to have you do that as well. But by all means, the engagement does not end with these formal events. We are hopeful that you will reach out to us, any of us, in the admissions office, reach out to our faculty. Our students will be talking to you shortly. Please feel free to reach out to them with any questions that you might have, because this is not only a decision for us, it's also a very important decision for you. We would love to have you come with us on this journey that you're about to undertake. And please take advantage of all the resources that are available to you to make sure that you make the best decision for you. There's plenty other paths that we have as well. We have the PharmD, but there's also pharmaceutical sciences bachelor's degrees that if you're thinking about you really want to work into a lab and you really don't have a interest in the clinical aspect of pharmacy, that's another opportunity for you that we'll be happy to talk to you about. We have faculty that are able to talk about that as well. And it might give you a bridge to another degree if you have an idea of what you'd like to do later. So we have the PharmD. We got this BS in PS, is how we abbreviate it, the BS in Pharmaceutical Sciences. And we also have other careers paths that you could look into as well. So you will still have the prerequisites that you will need to take in the PharmD program, but it gives you the opportunity, if you really are not in love with the idea of taking care of patients, that's okay. We need folks in the labs as well. And if that's where your interest and your love lies, then we will help you sort that out as well. So with that, I will stop my share. And I think I'll be happy to take any questions that I can answer. We also have our some other folks on the call that if you have any questions, happy to answer them for you. Come on, I wasn't that good. Thoughts, questions before I turn it over to Joe?
No questions?
I will turn it over to Joe then.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Carey.
Of course.
Okay, does anyone need a 2-3 second break before we have our ambassadors come on? Okay, Matt, we're our ambassadors.
Both Mets?
Hi, Matt. Good morning.
Morning, how are you doing today?
Good. Would you like to introduce yourself to our group of students and your current status as a student in our program?
Sure, but it looks like someone has a question in the chat. If you'd like, there's a question in the chat if you'd like to answer that before I introduce.
Oh, okay. You're ahead of us.
Hi, Najib, are you there?
How are you, Matt? Matt.
Joe, it looks like Najib has a question about the early assurance program.
Oh, okay, sure. Your question? Wait a minute. Is it in the chat or?
Yeah, the question is, what is the acceptance rate for those who are in that track? I think that's what Najib is asking.
Okay, for those early assurance students that are in the early assurance at Temple, it's pretty much been 95%. And that other 5% would be for those students who, at some point between their second and third year, decide that they would like to take another path and they go into other areas. But it's pretty much the early assurance to Temple. it's pretty much it's be- a good percentage. Somebody says they're not hearing.
Yeah. A student had asked a question about if they didn't do well in calculus during their first time taking the course, will it affect the admission decision? They're retaking Calculus 1 this semester and they're currently getting an A.
Okay, well, because we only transfer in grades of C minus or higher, if the grade is under that, then you would be required to repeat it. And hopefully, if you're getting a higher grade, we would accept a higher grade. We will not penalize you for that because we won't accept nothing lower than the C minus.
And then Najib had a follow-up. He's read that I don't know what it means, the 27%, but it's 95% for early assurance. I'm not sure what you mean by that question, Najib. Could you clarify a little bit?
Can't hear him.
Yeah, I think he's typing on his phone, I think he said.
Oh, he's in the chat. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. 27% acceptance for a typical student is what he said. Nadeem, are you talking pharmacy school admission in general, or that's what I mean? Okay. So it sounds like he is under the impression that for pharmacy school acceptances, if I'm reading this right, is about 27%. Is that a national number that you're referring to, Najib, or? Okay, so that's a national number. So it looks like Joan, we're better than
Yeah,
27%, I
we're better
believe,
than
correct?
27%.
Yeah. 27% seems a little bit low to me. No, I read about Temple.
No, that's incorrect. Not for the pharmacy program.
Yeah. And Najib, for that, if you want, it might be better to email. Okay, got it. He said thank you. So I think we clarified that for him. Anya also had a question. Anya, go right ahead. It's now allowing me to use my mic. Let me see if I can unmute you. Let's see. Ask to unmute. Thank you, Najib. He said this has been terrific. Thank you. Appreciate that. The admissions folks do a wonderful job. Let me see here. I can't ask Anya let me go into her and see if I can adjust this for her. Anya's phone. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think I have any control to unmute her. That might be a computer thing, Anya.
Yeah, because I've
Let me-
just unmuted somebody. It's
yeah, that might be a computer thing on your end. Can you type in your question? Or maybe log off and get back on to see if your mic will work?
and if that doesn't work, feel free to email us at any time, any question.
I think she just entered and re-entered back in because I just
Okay.
let her in the room. So let's see if she's able to get on now.
Oh, hi.
Hi, you
Hi,
are
Anya.
Hi. Sorry, I had to go change something in my settings. Good morning. My name's Onye. I'm currently a bio major, a junior at Temple University.
okay.
I also work as a pharmacy technician at Penn Medicine. So, pharmacy is like one of the main things I'm like looking to go into in the future.
Great.
Um, I do also want to kind of keep my options open in terms of like the medical field. So I was wondering, like, as a junior, what would you suggest is the best time to apply for pharmacy school, just in case like that may be the one avenue I want to go through in the future?
Anya, are you pursuing your degree and then you're coming into pharmacy, or
Yeah, so at first when I first joined Temple, I wasn't even in the medical field. I had picked psychology, and then later on before I started Temple, I did pick bio. So I was a bit confused on what I wanted to major in. I think in my freshman going into sophomore year, I started some pharmacy training and I began to like it a lot. So I was like, oh, this might be something I really want to go into in the future. I was doing retail pharmacy for a bit, and then last year summer, I had done my certification, got my certification for as a pharmacy technician, and I applied to Penn
Yeah.
Medicine. They also accepted me last year October, so I've been working at Penn ever since. So now I'm in like the hospital field, so I have like experience from both sides, and I still am interested into pharmacy. But I don't know, as a bio major, I'm just thinking to keep my options open. I'm not too sure pharmacy is what I want to do. I've been speaking to some pharmacists and they kind of said something about maybe like the industry kind of like declining in terms of like pharmacists. But I don't know if that was true. It was kind of like making me a bit like anxious on whether that was what I wanted to go into. Like I had spoken to some pharmacists at the time and I was telling them, well, I'm interested in pharmacy and dentistry, and they were like, oh, I think you should pick dentistry. So I don't know. It was kind of just a little bit discouraging hearing that from like obviously pharmacists. I don't know if that's a thing, whether like pharmacy is declining or if it's something is that's still, going to be a good job in the future.
Um,
Okay, as an admissions person, and
Mm.
I've talked to several applicants and students in your situation, you're you're in your third year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in a few months you'll be a rising senior.
Yes.
Um, I would recommend, and this is just my recommendation, um, continue to get your biology degree.
Mm-hmm.
Um, apply for the upcoming cycle for fall 2026. That will
Okay.
open, that will open in this coming July. So the
Okay.
cycle runs from July and it will go through next March. So finish your degree,
Mm-hmm.
apply for the upcoming cycle, and
Okay.
hopefully you will have um, a, a better sense of direction, whether you want to do pharmacy or dentistry. But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, you would be finishing the degree.
Okay, yes. Yes, that's true.
and
Okay.
Anya,
Thank
if
you.
I could jump in and give you a little bit of opinion,
Mm-hmm.
if I could suggest something, keep in mind, no matter what profession that you want to go into, there's going to
Mm-hmm.
be people that love it and people who don't.
That's
Right?
true. That is true.
I don't know the situation of the person that said go into dentistry rather than pharmacy.
Mm.
That is one person's opinion.
Yeah, that's true.
I would welcome you and invite you when you have some time to come up to the School of Pharmacy
Okay.
and talk to some of our faculty and some of our students one-on-one. I don't know if you've had a chance to shadow a pharmacist. Now, shadowing a pharmacist is different than working with one.
Yes, that's true.
So if there's ever an opportunity that you'd like to do that, please reach out to us. Because we want you to make the best decision too. But I would not make the decision personally. If you were my daughter, I would not make the decision or encourage you to make a decision based on one or two doomsayers, if you will, because they're everywhere. Uh,
That's true.
I'm sure if you go into dentistry, you will find people that said, "Man, I'm sorry I became a dentist." That's just the way it goes sometimes. Uh,
Mm.
but if you surround yourself with people that love the profession, as we do,
Hmm.
I think you'll find that there's a ton of opportunity. And with the biology degree, that opens up a whole lot of doors that maybe you wouldn't get otherwise. It might be industry. It might be something related to informatics because they need that type of background. There's a ton of opportunity for you. So while you're making the decision and trying to sort your way through it, please feel free to reach out. And
Okay,
if
I
you
will do.
if you'd like to shadow somebody, or if we can help you in any way via a Zoom, just one-on-one.
Mm,
And I open that up to everybody on the call. It's not just Anya, because I think it's really important. It's a huge decision, and I'd like to hear what our student colleagues have to say, because they weren't that far away from where you are now, and
okay,
trying
yeah.
to, get, kind of separate all that. So at that point, I'll turn it over. We have like Matt's squared today. We got two Matts. So we'll go to Matt G first and then Matt M, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Anya.
Hey everybody. I'll be Matt G for today. It's a shame we're both TY1, so we can't differentiate like that. Anya, that's a great question, and I think it's great to get your bearings straight on what you want to do and what you want to accomplish. I think the number one thing about pharmacy, though, because I've spoken to a ton of people, I've had some doomsayers like try getting me off the path, but I get a little tunnel visioned. So my biggest fear when I first went to pharmacy school was like, oh, is this really for me? I'm pretty sure Dr. Carey must have went over how broad the aspect of pharmacy is. You've got industry, you got clinical, you got community. But I think the number one thing is, no matter what you're doing, I think the number one thing is you should have the mindset of helping people. You should be going out to help others. You should be wanting to, put yourself on the line. And you guys are all here, so you have some semblance of an interest to pharmacy. And I think the number one thing about that is like the self-sacrificing, like the motivation. I know like the cliche answer to like getting into pharmacy school is, oh, I want to help people. But I think it's a cliche because it's something that you should be, really developed in. Um, I think that's like my personal aspect on, aspirations for getting into pharmacy school. But if you guys have any like specific questions about pharmacy school, like itself from a student perspective or the curriculum, I'd be willing to answer. If not, I'll just, start yapping about it regardless. But I'll let my colleagues.
So to answer your question, exactly like Matt G said, so I'm Matt M. So exactly as Matt G said, it's a big niche of stuff. So one of the first things that you're going to hear in lectures is pharmacy is not just retail. Pharmacy is not just hospital. There is the industry. There's also you can work in insurance. There's multiple niches, and you can find your path through the schooling that you do. That's the one thing. Um, Going off your question, oh, I don't know if pharmacy is for me. I had the same thing. So for me personally, when I was thinking, oh, should I do this or shouldn't I do this? I was contemplating on seeing the right path in the moment. I know school is expensive. I know there's a lot of factors to go in it, but one thing that works best for all of us is meet multiple people in one field. Don't talk to just one, talk to multiple. I worked with a pharmacist in retail. I worked with three in retail before I came into school. One of them hated his life. One of them loved it. And the other one was picking up two or three shifts in different areas and loved it. So they made me fall in love with pharmacy. Now I work in a hospital and some pharmacists love it. And I always talk to them and I always try to get their insight. They try to teach me on some material and we go back and forth with the material. There's some other pharmacists that don't like it at all. They're doing it just for the paycheck and they tell me, oh, you can pick up something else. But as Matt G has said before, your main focus is to help people, not just yourself. There is a benefit to pharmacy, and then there is multiple other benefits. We're here as public servants, basically. We're public servants to the public. We're here, we're the last line of defense. We're dispensing medications. We're making sure the medication is right. There's a lot of steps to it, and we have to make sure that the patient is our top priority. Like multiple times, I was in the pharmacy, and they would tell me, "Oh, this patient is amazing." Not because they heard it, because of the nurses, and it just a cascade. When you work in the hospital and when you work in pharmacies and stuff like that, you see that everyone has their own opinion, but if someone loves their job, their opinion is going to stand out more and it's going to resonate with you.
Did that answer your question? Hopefully. Thank you. Thank you. And I guess also that's kind of a good theory for everyone, right? Um, Make sure you get broad opinion. Don't just listen to one or two people, no matter what you decide, because anywhere you go, any place you work, you're always going to find people that love it and people that hate it. So I've been a pharmacist for over 30, well, Joan remembers because she was there when I walked in the door of Temple. I've been a pharmacist now almost for 36 years. And I have to be honest with you, it was the best decision I ever made. And the reason why I say that is because having the folks at Temple, and I did 2 degrees there, not just one. I did a bachelor's degree when they were still happening. And then I went back for a PharmD. I didn't get my PharmD straight through. I was a member of the first PharmD class at Temple, and there was only 7 of us in that class. And one of the things that I learned from that was Temple prepared me for anything that came my way. It was a very pragmatic education. It was a very practical education. Did a lot of work at Temple University Hospital during that time. And Temple owes me nothing. I owe everything I have to this university. And that's something I think that resonates even today with the School of Pharmacy. I mean, I've been in pharmacy now, as I said, about 36 years. I came back to Temple about 10 years ago to teach. And that's another decision that has worked out better than I ever imagined. So um, eh, there has to be a love for the profession. There has to be a feeling that the profession is bigger than me. The profession's bigger than us. And there's a lot of ways to do that. Don't misunderstand me. And if someone chooses another health career path, but that's what you truly want to do because it's inside your soul, then go ahead and do it. But make sure you get a broad opinion because there's always the people that say, I don't like it. I don't want you to like it either. And unfortunately, that's the way of the world today. So I would encourage everybody on the call to take that. Just take that as a suggestion. Are there any other
Well,
questions or yeah, yes, Joan, go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, no, my question to Matt and Matt, either one, if you had the chance to do it all over again, what would your answer be?
I could go first. I'm sorry, I just find it funny because there's 3.5 Matts in the P1 year. There's a kid
Yeah.
whose last name's Matthew, so it's always been like this. Um, I'd say I wouldn't do much differently, but I definitely take the approach slightly different of going to pharmacy school. Everything I've done so far, I feel like has been very, very well thought out, very well like meticulously planned, even though I've been winging it half the time. I know that sounds paradoxical, but I feel like the more I go along, the more like I feel more comfortable in my decision, and the more my decisions become more concrete. I initially started going to pharmacy school like got out of high school. I started community college because I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I started working at a pharmacy and retail. I'm not going to name the names because I'm not sure if I'm allowed to, but it was a little like disheartening at first, just seeing like how some of the pharmacists were like really depressed with their jobs. But there was 2 pharmacists who worked there who were really happy, really excited, and always willing to teach me what they were learning. And they were showing me how drugs operated, and it kind of blew my mind. It took like the magic out of like, oh, I take one drug, it makes me better, but it brought a whole new aspect, a whole new world to me of this is how drugs operate, this is how the body operates, and how like the synergy works between the two of them. And it was mind blowing, and I wanted to continue following that. So I initially reached out to one of my dad's old coworkers, who was a nurse, and asked him about hospital work because retail, it's fine, but it's not what I wanted to do. So I got a job at his hospital and a little nepotism. But when I was working there, it cemented my decision. I was like, I need to do pharmacy. This is fascinating how the human body works, what we can use like to operate on it, how we can change it in different aspects, and how we can fight these illnesses. So I reached out to a couple people at Temple, some friends of friends, and I started talking to them. And one thing that I'll get touch on later when we get more in depth about like the pharmacy school life at Temple is just how accepting they call it a pharmacy, and it was just so accepting, so in depth. Like you could just feel like the love emulate from like everyone, the teachers, professors, not just like a love for the profession, but love for like their students because they're training us to be their colleagues one day. So they're doing the best that they can. And I think through this school and through coming to this school, my decision became more and more cemented to the fact that even though I didn't know what I was doing at first, where is the part where I was winging it, the part where I was very, very well in depth in my decision and I like cemented it was through how the school provided for us, and the students. I'm not saying that because I'm a student, but the other students there, they're just open arms. They take on like mentees, like the P2s, P3s, which is for pharmacy year 2, pharmacy year 3. They took us on. Even the other PY1s, like we all just like kind of like gather together. Like we move as like one unit, because pharmacy is a team sport. So like we'll be a team sport with other professions, physicians, dentists, nurses, physical therapists. It's a huge like a range of professions all working together as one. But just us working together as our own separate team to contribute to that is just fascinating. So I'm sorry if I got a little bit on a tangent and
I know,
answered that question though.
I know. Thank you. Matt M.
So for me personally, the way I took this decision, I wouldn't change it one bit. So I started undergrad in 2020 and then just coasted through. The first year I was like, oh, I want to do MD, I want to do med school, and just that's the way I wanted to do life. And then afterwards, I was like, no, not really anymore. And then I was gonna do like pharmaceutical industry. And then after that, a couple people told me, hey, do think about pharmacy. I applied to pharmacy, got accepted, and I wouldn't change it one bit. I really wouldn't. Because as Matt G was saying, you meet phenomenal people in your own class. You meet phenomenal people older than you, and in the other schools like dentistry, podiatry, the MD school, psych, the psych school, all these schools they come together, and there's something called the IPE that you're gonna do throughout your years. It's interesting because you see the different professions. You see that one person only solely focuses on diagnosing, and we as a profession of pharmacy, we focus solely on med administration and fixing dosing. So there is multiple steps for what we do, and as Matt G said, it's a team sport within your own field and without and the whole healthcare. Because at the end of the day, your main focus is this one patient comes out better from the hospital or from the care or from the medication better than they have came in. That's the way we. That's what was taught to us from Dr. Carey, Dr. Mancano, different professors throughout our first year and even this year. Our main point is not the paycheck. It's to make sure that the patient, when he came in, he didn't feel well, but when he comes out, he feels better. And even at the end of his medication course, he's even a lot more better too. That's what I wouldn't change it at all. I wouldn't change my decision. I wouldn't change the school. This school's actually phenomenal.
What is a give us an example of what a day is like at the pharmacy as a pharmacy student.
So I can go. So our day starts. My day starts like 6:30 in the morning. I get up, get ready, head out. I have like a 30 to 45 minute drive to school. I go to school. I sit. I wait until Matt G comes, and then a couple of our other friends. We sit together out in the hallway or in the lobby area. We sit. We joke a little bit before class. We complain to each other about like general stuff about life in general. And then as our professors start coming in, we always say hi to them. Dr. Carey, we always see him in the morning. Miss Joanne, we always see her in the morning. We always say hi to them. It's a family. It's a knit fit. It's a network of families. It's beautiful. And then we go into class at 8:30 to 9 o'clock. We have class from like 9 to 12. Then we have a small break, and then we have class afterwards. And then just the rest of the day, some of our friends go home to study, and then some of us go to the med school or even stay in the pharmacy school and sit and study the whole day until like 6, 7, and then we just head home.
I'd say pretty much the exact same day, because me and Matt are in like the same friend group, same study group. One thing I love about like our schedule though is specifically our class. It's kind of like it's not like the the cliques that you'd normally expect in other places. It's more of like an amalgamation of people. Like you can go from one group to the next. So usually every morning, we go in the class. I arrive on campus around 8 o'clock. I'll meet up with Matt. We'll go like to grab some coffee or something. We'll meet up in the lobby, talk a little bit. Our other Matt will join us, and a couple other people. We'll quiz each other a little bit, just like do like an active recall, like exercise. We'll talk to some P2s, P3s that are walking the hallway, go to class. The classes, the like format is usually, depending on what day it is, they're either 1 or 2 hours long. And the 2 hour classes have like a 10-minute break in between. So you're not sitting down for 2 hours straight, just listening to lectures. The professors usually take time afterwards, like take questions or if you can come up to them. The one thing too that I love about the professors in specific, I mean, for my first semester, I was annoying. I'd go up to their office hours constantly, but they want you to. Like when I say annoying, I'm just being a little facetious, because they have office hours posted, but it was more like an open door policy for a lot of the professors. I'd say pretty much every single one. You could just walk in, you could talk. Specifically about like the schoolwork, but they're very open and talk about life and too. Like I feel like I have an issue that there's like a stigma around like professors being like up here because they have all these doctorates, they have all these experiences of years. But you gotta remember, like us right now versus like 20 years ago or 25 years ago, we were finger painting, you know? So like us in 25 years will be them where they're at currently. So I think that's a big stigma that they have been breaking down for us, which I find lovely. So I usually go up right after classes are done and speak to the professors for talk their ear off for about like half an hour to an hour. Then I come back down. I meet up with my friends again. We'll go study for a bit. Just we got to keep like the same momentum going day in day out, and it can get a little tiring sometimes. Like I think this semester specifically, there was like a week or two where I was off my A game, but like my friends like Matt, for example, like he would text me every day, making sure like I'm back in it, and I feel like I hit the bounce back, and now we're back. Um, so I think another thing about this school and just classes in general and just a daily life is the again family that this school like poses. And I know like that might have a negative connotation me saying it repetitively because been in a business where they call themselves a family and it's complete opposite. It's more of a toxic family. But this is like a genuine like community and I love it for that reason.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience, do you have any questions for our ambassadors? Ambassadors, do you have any recommendations for our participants or?
Sure. I also was wondering if I could ask them some questions. I mean, don't feel obligated to answer. I'll drop my email too, but this is just for my own interest, for helping out future students. I just want to figure out what's your biggest fear about coming to pharmacy school? For me, for general, I didn't think I was good enough. I had imposter syndrome. I can go over that if you'd like, but I was wondering if there's any specific fears about study habits, about group, anything along those lines that you might have that we could help, destigmatize.
So I'm gonna answer Matt's question based off of me coming in this semester, like last semester, sorry. In the beginning, I was sitting by myself. Matt came up to me because he's our class president, came up to me, he was like, hey, come sit with us, come study with us. And I came study with them once or twice, we became close friends, and ever since then we sit together. Near the middle of the semester, we were all talking. We said we feel like I feel like I don't belong here. But in truth, you really do. In the beginning, you're gonna feel like that. You're gonna feel like I don't know anything. Everybody's ahead of me. I feel like I'm lost. One word of advice, the way I've understood last semester, I'm taking it into this semester is forget everyone else around you. Your best friends in the class, to your friends, to your other friends that you don't talk to that much. Forget everyone else. Your main goal is yourself, and your main goal is to look in the mirror the night before you sleep and wake up the next day better than the person that you were the night before. That's the way I took last semester and this semester is I make sure that information that I know this semester or that I knew last week is a lot more advanced this week. I don't know if I confused you guys or not, but the way I like to do my life is it's go, 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 but at the same time, you need to take a step back and evaluate yourself. Are you improving or you're not improving? That's the way I understood my life coming into school last semester and starting this semester.
To build off what Matt said and to answer my own question, um, I'd say comparison's the thief of joy, as he's saying. There's a Walt Whitman quote that says, like, the only person you should compare yourself to is you who you were yesterday. So I think that going into this program, it's going to be stressful, regardless if you do at Temple, regardless if you do somewhere else, or even if you're not sure if you're going in the pharmacy school. I think that's a thing you got to bring with you wherever you go, is that you're on your own path. There's plenty around you who will help you, but to look at their ship that's going further and faster, you're going to go to the same destination. You're going A to B. You're not trying to bump into each other. You're not trying to sink each other. You're going down the same river. One second, I'm sorry. To see a question. Oh, that's perfect. I love that question because that was my biggest fear going into. The question is their biggest fear is getting information all at once. There's any tips on how to memorize it for a longer time period? That's a great question, and it's a valid fear. It's a pretty intensive course. Your first semester is like 16 credit hours. I could break them down real fast. I think they're on there, but like infectious disease, it's a lot of memorization. That class, I'd say the biggest. I'm just gonna go break like point by point. Infectious disease is just constantly like, reiterating what you're going over. We got a lot of help from upperclassmen, but I think our biggest help was each other. We have a buddy, like one of our best friends. His name's Chris, and he's like the infectious disease expert. He's like a wizard. All of us had like our own little niche where we were very good at, so I feel like it was helpful in that sense, like figuring out like where you're weak and filling each other's gaps. Like I was a little stronger in immunology. Matt was pretty strong across the board. Chris was like on another level. But to get each other to the same level, what we did was we would study every day and we'd ask each other questions throughout the day just to keep on like the recall, so it's never leaving your mind. And a helpful part about the course is like medicinal chemistry and I think it was pharmaceutics in particular, they integrate a lot. So they start off like on complete separate pathways, but they like merge by the end. So even though you're learning one thing in one class, it's something that's going on in the other class. And it's a constant thing. It's this is your life for the next 4 years. Like it's an investment. So you're going to keep on building different habits and you're going to keep on pivoting. Like if one approach is not working, you can pivot to the next. If that approach doesn't work, pivot to the next. So it's not like something where you're going to be stuck in place and you're just going to be left behind. The teachers are always willing to help you. Other students are always willing to help you. And I think it's just a mental thing too. I think that's the biggest approach because I think if you go in with the mindset of fail, you're going to fail. There's like a study that showed, I'm trying to remember what its name off the top of my head. I apologize, but it's called fixation study. If you fixate on something on the road, for example, like a car, and you fixate on that when you're driving, you're more bound to hit that. So if you fixate on failure, you're more bound to hit failure. But you fixate on success, you're more bound to hit success. So I'd say just again to sum up my the best way to memorization is definitely mindset going in, utilizing all your resources, so all your students, everything else, and just continuing to plow away at it and figuring out what works for you. Because there's plenty of things out there, there's plenty of different methods, but not all will work for you, and that's okay. And it's just figuring out what does work and going off of that. You have anything to add to that, Matt?
So I'm not that strong in memorizing. So the way I do it, the way I study for any class, and even I'm doing it this semester, is I take the slide deck on my iPad. If you don't have an iPad, if you haven't started studying on an iPad, trust me, it helps. An iPad helps. You're going to hear it over your first week in prep week. You're going to hear it multiple times throughout your career. An iPad is beneficial. One of our friends, Kevin, would never use an iPad in the last semester. He started using it this semester, loved it. So the way I do it is I take the slide deck once, I build associations with different classes, what I've learned, build it all into one slide deck with a lot of notes. Like even Matt could say he saw my notes before. It'll be like a sentence this big full of like a paragraph in the middle of the slide deck. Just rewriting in my own words, understanding it, making sure that I get all the information that the teacher or the professor wants me to learn. There, I just do it one more time. So we usually gather together either on Discord, in person, or whatever. We sit together, we put the slide decks up, and we just run through them very fast. So the first time, it takes forever. So first time, one slide can take me 10 minutes to fully understand. Second time, when I'm studying with my friends, third time when we're studying together, it can take me up to 2 minutes just to get one slide down, and it goes faster. But one of our professors last semester told us the best way to understand slides, the best way to understand anything in life, act like the person that taught you. Over there, over time, you're going to get, oh, I know, okay, maybe he's going to ask a question about this section. Maybe not. Maybe, oh, he's going to integrate this section with this section. Oh, this came in an earlier chapter. So going off of one of our friends. So last semester with MetChem 1, it was all biochemistry, almost all biochemistry. We were studying together, we remember stuff. This semester, I saw in one slide something from last semester that I remembered. I was like, oh wait, MetChem 1. So I wrote it. We talked about it. We started laughing about it because we all felt like we walked out not knowing anything. We walked out not knowing anything. But then this semester, once you get a break and you let your mind fix all the information together, it was phenomenal. You remember stuff from immuno. You remember stuff from infectious disease. You remember stuff from MedChem, Sudix 1. You remember a lot of stuff, and it helps you continue. And the information is going to come, it's going to build up on each other, but there's no information that contradicts each other. Each class builds on the next one. So like right now, we're taking pharmacology 1 with MedChem 2, Sudix, and healthcare and farm care. They're all one way or another integrated together. One class works with another class, very close, and another class, one topic comes into a different class, but they work together. So this semester, one thing that we've all said is I see the information more than once. I see the information up to 4 times in 4 different classes, which helps a lot because, excuse me, when you see the information multiple times, it sticks in your head. Oh, I remember this. I remember what this professor said about this. I remember this professor said this. And over time, it's going to stick. And over time, you're going to be able to bring it back. And it's going to help you in the long run. Going to class is more beneficial than anything else because the professor explains it. He puts in different words. It's phenomenal. I highly recommend it. Memorizing the material is not something that you should go with. More understand the material and understand the information behind the material is what's going to help you carry through.
I'd also like to add what Matt said, and so I forgot to mention this. The school does something called Prep Week. It's preparing you for school. It's like a little mini boot camp the week before school. And even if you don't feel like you have study methods down pat, like different things, they'll show you everything. They'll show you like I know like the first day was going over different ways of taking notes, or second day it was like the Tuesdays taking notes. The Monday was different ways of studying in class or out of class. It was they offer so many different methods, and like they show you like the studies on them and like the proven like efficacy, like success rate of these studies. Um, and they have you like breakouts, like what we're doing right now. You can ask questions, or the students will just prompt and tell you what worked for them. Um, I think Prep Week is very beneficial, and I think it's a great thing school offers. The teachers will come in and they'll introduce themselves briefly, so you get to build that little camaraderie and rapport with not only your colleagues but also your teachers. So I keep saying colleagues, your fellow students, and I think that's one of the most beneficial things too is getting to know everyone like around you. You don't have to be friends with everybody; that's impossible. But getting at least to be like on a working level. I'd say like everyone in our class is friends, like to the most extent they can be, because we all recognize we're going to be colleagues together, and we all try building each other up. I don't think there's like we have a class of 79. I don't think there's anyone in there that like I wouldn't be willing to do everything for, you know. I know that's a little like hyperbole, but to go out on a limb for these students, because they do the same for me. Like with our study groups, it fluctuates in size. It can be like 4 of us one day, like 18 the next, depending on where everyone is. And we all try helping each other to the best ability. And I think Prep Week was helpful for that because I missed the open house. I missed these sessions, which I should have gone to, but I wasn't fully set on Temple at the time. And Prep Week was fantastic for that because it gave you the opportunity to meet everybody at once. Gave you the opportunity to meet your teachers. It gave you the opportunity to learn different study methods you wouldn't normally have known about. There was one, it was called Pomodoro, where you study for 50 minutes, take a break for 10. Study for 40 minutes, take a break for 10. Study for 30 minutes, take a break for 10. Like fluctuating, going on and off. And I think that was helpful. It wasn't the best for me personally, but it was helpful seeing different methods such as that. And I know plenty of people who like use that and it works fantastic for. It's just I don't have the energy to do so, but I can recognize how successful it can be to others. And I think Prep Week was very beneficial in that aspect. And we got to meet upperclassmen. All the upperclassmen I talk to now, I met at Prep Week. So I think attending that is key to succeeding too.
Do we have any other questions from our participants? Any other information you'd like to pass on? Matt, Dr. Gary?
Yes, I'll go for a few
You're
minutes.
welcome, Jayoti.
Um, everything that the Mats said, I think is accurate. I think you have to understand that pharmacy school is a huge commitment. There's no question about it. But if you think about anything in life that you really wanted, it's a commitment, right? No matter what it is. The one thing that I think hopefully that you're walking away with is that, despite the fact that it is appropriately challenging because frankly, you have the public interest in your grasp. So it has to be. It can't be easy enough where you walk in the door, do next to nothing, and walk out at the other end with a PharmD. It doesn't work out that way. But the good thing I hope you're hearing is that there's plenty of support there to help you do that. I think Matt M made a wonderful point to one of the questions that was asked about memorization. Memorization doesn't get you far. Memorization gets you to the exam that you're taking. But then if you get into this cycle of learn and purge, that's not going to help you because the information you're getting is designed to stick. It's supposed to stick because everything builds on one another. So by the time you get to your rotations in your fourth year, if you've just memorized everything your first three, you're not going to be as well suited or as well prepared for those experiences in the fourth year as you should be. So I would strongly recommend, even no matter where you're at in your education now, whether you are in your first couple years of undergrad, whether you're getting ready to apply, whether you've been out a little bit and you've decided to come back, no matter where you are in that instance, whatever you're trying to learn, try to make it stick. And find ways to do that. I mean, Matt G mentioned about prep week. Um, a lot of students, when they come to pharmacy school, the first thing they say is, "I didn't think there would be this much information." Because undergrad isn't like that. Undergrad's a little bit different. You're in a healthcare profession now. No matter which one you choose, be it pharmacy or otherwise, by necessity, it's a lot of information. Um, what we try to do during that prep week is kind of give you an idea how to kind of get it together, how to get it in a place where it works for you. Not every technique is going to work for everybody, right? I've known students that have gotten a big old poster board and they've written everything on a poster board because they're visual and that's what works for them. There's been other people that have said, I just have a pad of paper next to me, and whenever I have my notes next to me, I'm writing questions down. Try to get into the minds of us. What are we trying to ask you? If we've spent 35 minutes on something and 30 seconds on something else, focus on the 35 minutes because that's probably what we're wanting you to walk away with. Um, so I think that advice, no matter what point of your education you're at now, I think is very, very worthwhile. The other thing is too, and I'm going to embarrass the two Matts here a little bit. Um, it's cool to see the growth from one semester to the next. I've been lucky. I've had them both semesters because I teach courses in both semesters, and to see the growth from when somebody comes in as a fall first year student to a spring first year student, it's dramatic. They may not even realize it. But you see that growth happen from first to second, second to third, third to fourth. It's a continual growth thing, and you mature. And not that they were immature before, but you mature in your educational process. And that's something that we hope to help you do because a lot of times there's a good number of students out there that don't know how to do that. We're not like, here's the stuff, live and be well. That's not how we operate. It's let's help you try to get the best methodology to learn. I teach a course to them right now that's essentially a math course. And one of the things I want the students to walk away with is failure is okay. Failure is okay because it allows you to grow. If you learn something the first go round, I'm not sure it was really cemented in the first place, or things were way too easy. We do exercises every week, and a lot of courses do this. You do repetitive work every week. You work on the fundamentals because the fundamentals are going to get you where you need to be. Just keep working and working and working on the absolute fundamentals that you need to do. Practice. Be active learners, not passive. Reading notes for 40 hours before an exam and doing nothing else is probably not going to help you. But Matt M made a great point. You learn something much better when you have to teach it to somebody, right? So get a bunch of your friends together, no matter where you're at now in your education. If you have an exam coming up, everybody take a topic. And if you're able to teach it to another person, guess what? You understand it. And no matter what question comes on an exam, you should be able to reasonably handle it. So I think the insights that both Matts gave, I think, is really, really important. And these are coming from first year students. I'm sure if you were to ask second and third year, they have similar types of stories where they've learned along the way. This worked, this didn't. This is how I give this is the insight I have into what you're trying to do. And that's why we encourage you to keep in touch with the school, keep in touch with the admissions office, keep in touch with student ambassadors. We have a ton of them that are happy to talk to you via email or otherwise. Take advantage of that because they've experienced what you've experienced previously, and they're where you want to get to. So they can certainly give you advice and insight that quite frankly even faculty can't give you because we can't see the world through their eyes. They can only see it through their eyes, and they're the ones that you should be aspiring to be when you're taking on this journey of going to pharmacy school.
Okay. Okay, with that being said, any questions from any of our participants? Any concerns, anything? No? Then I don't have any more questions. M&Ms, any more questions? And
No, I like to reemphasize what Dr. Carey said, though. There is a Socrates quote. Now I'm just going to paraphrase it because it's in Greek. I don't know Greek, but he basically says, "The more I learn, the less I know." I mean, me and Matt the other day were looking through like prior notes from last semester, and the stuff that we were thinking, "Wow, this is the most difficult thing in the world." Looking back on, we're like, was this ever difficult to us?" So it's not in the sense that we're like, "Oh, we're so much better than we were prior," but we've definitely grown. We definitely learned, and we definitely matured in ways that we didn't realize. And looking at what the higher, like the P2s and P3s, like PY2s, PY3s, what they are going through, and like see how smarter they look. I know that we'll be up there like the next year. So it's very like inspiring. And this is a hard program. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It can be difficult, not in the sense that the material is impossible to digest, but it is a lot, and it's like a lot of work, and it is a lot of effort. But you don't immediately become strong. Like you don't immediately start trying to bench 300 pounds. You start at like 100, then you go up to 125. You got to do bite-sized chunks to grow. And I think that the next 4 years of your life, no matter what you're doing, if you're doing this, if you're doing dentistry, it's an investment and you're going to expect returns. It's not like an investment where you're throwing in an APY that you don't know what the yield growth will be. You're knowing exactly what you're getting out of this. You know, by the end of this, you will be smarter, you will be stronger, and you'll be a lot more capable of a person than you were prior. So even though like it is difficult, but it's so worth it in every like facet of the word. It is such a great program, and it's such a great profession to get into. And I understand that there's a lot of stigma and there's a lot of fear surrounding it, especially when, you know, pharmacists are telling you otherwise, and that can be like daunting. But you got to recognize why we're joining the field and what we're getting out of it. Um, thank you. And I'll drop my email too in the chat. So if you guys have any questions, you guys can always send them out. I'll probably respond as soon as I can.
Okay. With that being said, this concludes our open house. We thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Carey, Eminem, you guys are great.
Take care, everybody. Best of luck.